Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Rulings and Resources, a YouTube exclusive side series here on the Crit Happens channel. In addition to the regular show episodes that we'll release every Sunday, on a slightly less regular schedule, I'll be producing episodes like this where we sit and talk about either a particular subject regarding the show or just D&D in general. For instance, this episode is about why you should play it, and also a little bit about why I choose to play it, and specifically why I DM. So without further delay, let us jump into it and answer that question, why should you play D&D? So why do you play D&D is a question I get asked pretty regularly. Though video games and gaming in general are an ever-growing part of our pop culture, there is still a definitive line of social acceptance between video games and tabletop games, in my opinion. While massively popular video games like Skyrim and Witcher 3 owe so much to the foundation of Dungeons & Dragons, I'd wager that the percentage of people who play and enjoy these games and also D&D is still relatively small. Video games are, well, visual. They're much easier for an outsider to see why people enjoy it. When you imagine a game like Skyrim, you imagine the visuals, the soundtrack, the hours lost in interactions with NPCs and doing quest lines. When you imagine D&D, you probably imagine half a dozen bearded guys sitting around a table in a dimly lit basement, rolling dice and requesting to cast magic missile at the darkness. And are you wrong in this imagination? I'd say no. Stereotypes come from some point based in reality, but the experience is not as antisocial as that description seems. At its core, playing D&D is a pretty social experience. You can't play it by yourself. In many cases, it demands a certain degree of acting and improv talent, though your experience may vary based on the other people at the table. In my years of playing, I found that D&D is also a surprisingly useful tool when combating things like social anxiety, and helps make you better at conversations by sheer practice and repetition, in an environment that also is comfortable and feels safe. But all that aside, the question remains, why choose to play Dungeons & Dragons when you could just play a video game instead? For me, it comes down to immersion. I present to you a scenario in Skyrim where you, after defeating a few bandits at the entrance of a dungeon, enter a large room. The door behind you shuts and mysteriously clicks. Perhaps you even spot a pulley system in place along the ceiling that has you locked in. The room is dimly lit by two burning braziers on the opposite side of the room, flanking your now only exit, but it's still enough light to notice a half-dozen skeevers, these large, vicious rats that often carry infectious diseases, coming towards you from either side. The game will provide you with essentially two options: fight and risk being eaten alive, or blindly run further in the dungeon until you reach a point that the skeevers are programmed to no longer follow you. I suppose you could also just eat your weight in bread and recover HP that way, but that's a whole nother discussion. Perhaps there is a mechanic to unlock the door that you could look for, perhaps not, and if not, there's no way for you to open that door because the programming will just say, this door is locked. Instead, given the same scenario in Dungeons & Dragons, your only limits are your imagination. While you can still opt to fight your way out, and you can also run down, you should know that without programming, I'm free to let those skeevers chase you until the ends of the earth. Perhaps you can look for a way to possibly reopen the door behind you and flee that way. You can certainly try, but based on the difficulty of the door, your skill in lockpicking, it might not be a viable solution, or at least the best solution. Perhaps you wish to run forward and topple one of the braziers behind you, creating a trap for the skeevers to either sway them from following you or damage them if they try, if not outright killing them, making it an easier fight. Personally, I would take the latter, and that's just not something that Skyrim allows you to do, at least not without a lot of mods. And even then, I don't think they let you do that. And that's just the beauty of playing D&D. It's that anything is possible if your DM allows it. You're not limited to the logic tree that the game developers had in mind when creating the dungeon, and you can take the open world of these video games and make them your open world. To close, you should play D&D if you enjoy social interaction and gaming with your friends that is never repetitive. You should play D&D if you've ever cheesed a video game and thought, wow, I just wish that hadn't been possible. You should play D&D if you ever played an RPG and thought, my character really wouldn't do any of those things, and I wish there was a way I could do what I think I would actually do. In short, you should just play D&D, or at least listen to our Crit Happens show every Sunday. You can't blame me for that plug, it's my channel. In the future, I may even look at ways to involve and engage new players directly. We'll see. It's kind of an idea I've been playing with for about a year or so, but still playing with it. As for why I choose to DM personally, for me, as much as I love to play D&D, it's really about the storytelling aspect. As a writer, I love to just create a world and let my players act in that world and kind of write the story for me. Sure, every now and then I do enjoy playing a character build that I made, but at the core, for me, D&D is all about just telling the story. And I really only get that when I DM. Now, I know a lot of players will get that aspect of telling their character's story when they play it, and that's fine, but it also really just depends on if you have a DM that allows you to really flesh out your character story, which is something I'm big on personally. So guys, if you like this video, hit the like button, and if you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Check out the actual Crit Happens show every Sunday, and you can also follow us on Twitter at CritHappensPod or email us directly at crithappenspod@gmail.com.